This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
We have Brett Dolan with us right now on the McLarty Daniel hotline, so let's talk with him. Brett, how you doing, man? Great call.
Well, thank you. I'm doing great. You know, that is always a pleasure to be at an Iron Bowl, especially when it's in Auburn. We got a great finish. I didn't think Alabama was going to find a way to get it done, but they did. And I would say it is always a scene when it's a big game at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
You could not have seen anything like that coming. When the snap went past Miller, he had to go all the way back past the 30-yard line to recover it. You think this game's over at this point, right? I mean, but then again, you know the stadium that you're in, you know the rivalry that you're broadcasting. You've been at the Iron Bowl before, so you know what this series is like. But there was no way that was going to happen, right?
Oh, I didn't think so, but yeah, that's my third. The previous two games in 2017, 2019, Auburn found a way to win. And I guess the thought process is when this game is close in the fourth quarter, what type of magic, what type of chaos are we going to see? You're not sure what it is, but I'm with you. When the snap went by Milroe, you thought that might end it. And keep in mind, Auburn fumbled the fumbled the punt at the 30 to start this drive, and Alabama actually went backwards after a handful of plays to the 31. I didn't see that coming, especially dropping 3 deep safeties, spreading the field. Milroe had time, and my goodness, did he make another play that's just another chapter in that crazy rivalry.
Brett, one of my favorite weeks of sports is this weekend. But first, I want to get your thoughts. I've been kind of listening to some national media, trying to figure out what they think about Bobby Petrino, and then the local media, and then how they feel inside the state. And it seems like it's more mixed in the national media, but the local people, 90% love it. I just wanted to get your thoughts, your take on Bobby Petrino's return to Arkansas.
I thought what was interesting last night at the basketball game, you have 18 to 22-year-old kids periodically chanting, "We want Bobby," and they really weren't even alive during these glory days. So it shows you how quickly you can change the conversation from, my goodness, that Missouri game was awful, to, wow, we're excited about next year, and that's with an OC, not even a head coach. So I still don't know what to make of it, Matt. I'm still processing it. I wasn't around during his previous tenure here. I think the national storyline is one of curiosity, if nothing else, because many probably thought this reuniting would never occur. But, you know, this offense needs something, and this program right now needed a little jolt of momentum, and maybe this will do it. I hate to put too much stock in an OC. I mean, any one person's not necessarily a savior, but it has changed the storyline.
But any offensive coordinator, well, it wouldn't have been treated the same way, because I don't think people view, just any old other coordinator the same way they do as Petrino. But it's also just what he had done here previously that makes people think that you can at least get a little bit of that back. But he's not the head coach. He's not the head coach. He's an offensive coordinator. It just there's a lot that goes into this, man. It's just one of the craziest stories. It was one of the craziest stories I'd ever heard of when it happened in 2012, and now this just continues to be one of the craziest stories that I've ever heard of. And it's only now it's 11 years later.
Right, and I think maybe the one part, Phil, is that we're not giving enough credence to is that it did seem like Sam this year had some moments and some times where there was some confusion, and not having a former head coach like Barry Odom next to him may have accentuated some of that. Well, now he's got a former head coach back at his side, and someone to kind of go over game plans with, just talk about the magnitude of the job in the SEC. I don't know if you can quantify that, but I think having a former coach, especially a former coach here, if you can remove the whole Petrino story, you got to believe would be beneficial to Sam and the program.
Brett, I'm so looking forward to tomorrow with this Oregon-Washington game. And you got 4 undefeateds in these conference champions. Give me one of them that's going to take their first defeat in their conference champions game, being Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, or Washington. Or do you see all 4 of those teams sweep?
Well, I think Florida State's the interesting conversation because they probably have the worst resume of the group, and then, of course, the injury to Jordan Travis. Now, the committee has continually shown, Matt, if you win all your games, that you get credit for that. And I don't think a 13-0 Florida State team would be in any danger of not being in the Final Four. They snuck by Florida last week. They have not looked good. But, again, their most dynamic player is not with them. So even if they make it and they line up against, say, a Georgia a 1 versus 4, that could be a bloodbath. But you can't take Florida State out, I don't think, even though they don't look like the Florida State team of a couple of weeks ago. I guess if you would ask me for one team beyond that, I've said all along I liked Oregon better than Washington. And this game tomorrow excites me. And even when Washington won the game, and give credit to them, I thought Bo Nix was a little bit better than Penix, and I thought Oregon was better than Washington. Now, it's hard to say that when they lost the game. They do get that second chance. It does seem like Bo Nix has worked his way past Penix in the Heisman positioning to this point. Now they've got to go out and do it. Oregon has been really good over the last month. I think it would be a shame if they don't find their way in. But clearly, if Washington does, they've defeated them twice. They earn it. But I guess, I would say I think Oregon's a heavy favorite, so it's hard to say they're the underdog, but they are the once beaten team trying to knock off the undefeated Huskies.
Brett, we're parsing words so much now with one more committee meeting left, and a lot of people go at the idea that they're supposed to pick the 4 best teams. To me, I feel like it's supposed to be the best resumes, the best seasons that you've had, and part of that goes into who you played, what you beat them by, and some of the statistics. What does best team mean to you?
Well, you're right. I think this conversation's happened more this year than anything else, and in part it's because we actually have 6, 7 teams rather than, say, 3 or 4 competing for these final spots. I agree with you. I think what they have done is they say we can't knock a team for winning their games, even if we think they're not as good as another team, and that's where the Florida State conversation comes in. To me, I think, Phil, when you start talking about best team, I think most people assume Georgia is that. Now, if they lose 31-30 to Alabama, do you throw them outside of the Final Four if Washington wins, if Michigan wins, and if Florida State wins? It almost feels like you have to this year. But to me, Georgia, is going to be one of the 4 best teams at the end of this week, win or lose. The problem is, if they lose, I think there's 3 other teams or 4 other teams that could make an argument by resume they deserve to be in. So I don't know how you decipher this. I think some people would still look at the resumes and say, how can you not give Texas credit for beating Alabama, even though that was 3 months ago and they're not the same teams, and maybe Alabama's better than Texas now, but you can't take that away from them. So, I'm glad I'm not part of this committee, because I think there's probably longer and more conversations than they've ever had trying to figure this out if we get just a little bit of chaos on Saturday. And I don't know how we won't. We always have chaos, so I don't know why we wouldn't have something throw a wrench into the plans this weekend.
Brett, with this transfer portal and all these quarterbacks that are in the mix, it kind of feels like the wild, wild west here. What are your thoughts on KJ Jefferson and with the new OC with
Ram Jeep? We're taking
with the new OC with Bobby coming in. Do you think that's a good fit? Do you see KJ being the Arkansas starting quarterback next year, or do you think he transfers out?
Matt, I don't see him here, and I don't have anything to base that on other than the fact I put myself in his shoes. And I would have thought last year KJ probably went into the year thinking, if I have a good year, I got a chance to go to the NFL, and if I don't, I can come back. And then you come into this year and you think, well, I'm certainly going to the NFL at the end of this year. And you get to the end of this year, and it didn't quite go the way he would like. Do you want to run this back for a 3rd year? And I think the human nature in me or in him, I think, might think, why don't I try a different formula or a different recipe? Only because I'm guessing each of the last 2 years he's thought this could be the year that'll propel me to the NFL and an opportunity at the next level. And last year he decided to come back. This year I don't know if he's in the best position to go to the NFL. So do you just try and look for a different option, a different final year, and try and take advantage of what Michael Penix or Bo Nix or some of these other guys have done with a little more age and experience and a different system? So I'd love to see KJ come back. I just think putting myself in his shoes, I might take a different path.
Texas and Bama both finished 12-1. There's 1 spot left in the Final Four. Who are you taking?
The same thing. I think you have to go Texas, even though I think if Alabama wins and Texas wins, Alabama would be a better team in the 4-team playoff than Texas. I don't know how you remove yourself from that win. Double-digit win. I know it was early in the year. Milroe was not the same player then as he is now. I think he's probably one of the 4 or 5 best players in college football at this point. I think you'd have to go Texas. And my goodness, the Texas fans will remind you every hour of the day that they defeated Alabama, because that's their key to getting into this playoff. That's their key to maybe having an opportunity to sneak in. Well, we still have the best win, and if Alabama beats Georgia, we defeated Alabama. It seems like a mess, and I've said it all along. I like a 14 playoff. I like these conversations. This would seem to be the year 6, 8, or 12 would make more sense. But again, I think you'd have to go Texas over Alabama just because of that head-to-head. It still has to mean something in a 14 playoff year where every game feels like a season and every game has consequences. And to Texas's credit, even though it's been a long time ago, they got the W.
Brett, and one more question here. We had Texas A&M. They went with Mike Elko and got the coach that they wanted. How do you see that fit right there? Is he going to take them to the promised land? Do you grade that as an A-plus hire?
I don't know if I grade it as an A-plus hire. I think it's a good hire, and I think because he's been there, he's had success. And listen, if you can win at Duke, you should be able to win at Texas A&M. Although it does feel like they have continually fought that battle. How do we go from the middle tier of the SEC to the top tier? The problem is that top tier for a long time has been two teams, Georgia and Alabama. Can they be that good? I don't know, but I think clearly the more stories we hear about Jimbo in the last couple of years and what that was like, and his issues just communicating with the players and the coaches and getting things to work, it did not seem like it was headed in the right direction. So I think despite that buyout, it was a good time to make a change. I think Elko's going to be a good coach. I don't know if he's going to be an elite coach.
Brett, we'll end it there. Appreciate you hopping on as always. And I don't have another game to call for like another month or so for the Gator Bowl, but we'll do this again, all right?
Well, you're forgetting all the volleyball this weekend and women's basketball on Sunday and men's basketball on Monday. So it never stops. It just changes seasons. But, guys, I love these conversations. I just love talking college football with you guys every week.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.